Hi there, welcome to Join Architect Jane. This is a weekly live show during school term times, not during school holidays, because I am a mum and so I can't join you during school holidays. But I am here on Mondays during school term time, and I'm here to help you with tips, advice, frequently asked questions, and different topics all related to home design and how you can get the best home design for you. So let's get into it today. This is really a part 2 from last week because I had to rush off last week. I had an important call to take. So today we are going to follow on from what we covered last week, which was how to get the best layout for your home and what do planning application drawings need to include. So if you're interested in those topics, learning more about those topics, go back and watch and listen to last week's live session, podcast, YouTube video, whatever you want to call it. We are all of those things on this channel. So today we are going to be covering how to work out the best and cheapest solution. I've got a couple of notes here, that's why I'm looking over here. How to begin your big home improvements project when you're feeling overwhelmed, and how to house the stuff in your house, how to make sure that you have enough storage, because this is a big topic that I know a lot of people feel like they don't have enough storage, and it's not a multi-million pound industry. The personal storage units that you can hire, they make people who have those and hire them out millions of pounds, because many of us feel like we don't have enough storage. So if you are one of those people, you feel like you haven't got much storage, you need more storage, you've got too much stuff for the amount of space that you have, then stick around and we'll look at storage later on. But we'll start off with some Q&A. So these are questions that I've had from people in my audience. And if you have any questions during this while you're listening, then please do go ahead and pop any questions that you have in the comments. I do pick up on questions and I will include them in a future stream. If you're watching live and you ask me a question live, then I may well do my best to give you a quick answer, but I will probably also pick it up and do something more in-depth at a later point. So please do go ahead, pop any questions you have in the comments. So let's get started with how to work out the best and cheapest solution. So there are lots of ways you could approach this, but there are two issues there. So there is the best and there is the cheapest. So combining best and cheapest is the issue that we're looking to solve. So how do you do that? So first of all, I think there are some out of the box kind of thinking that you need to do. And some of this is a little bit related to the storage side that we're going to look at later on. But in terms of the best and the cheapest, you want to do the least amount of building work possible. I know that sounds strange coming from an architect. Don't do more building work than you can afford. Don't do too much building work. Just build only what you really need and really want. That is going to give you the best solution and also the lowest cost. So building as little as possible is going to cost you less. Building is expensive. That is, undeniable fact. It costs money to build. So if you don't build as much, it's going to cost you less. But then how do you get the best result whilst building less? That is another question to ask. So what you really need to be doing is making sure that you're only building what you really need, and the things that are actually going to give you the most return on your investment in terms of, well, there are lots of different possible returns on investment, but for me, I would say that what is best for you is the thing that is going to most improve your quality of life and give you the quality of life that you really wish to have. So it could also, return on investment could mean in terms of how much money you're going to get when you sell your property on. There are lots of different ways that you can consider return on investment, and that's like a deeper topic for another time. But in terms of best for you, in terms of your enjoyment of your home, your personal use of your home, then what is going to add the most quality to your life, and fulfill your desires to be able to live the life that you really wish to live. So your essentials and your would be really amazing to have. Not that would be nice to have, because nice was a bit of a wishy-washy one, but if it really is going to have such a massive impact on your life that you're actually going to love living in your home and you're going to love the life that you live, and that's a huge improvement to your quality of life, that's where I would focus on. So that is in terms of the best, and in terms of the lowest, build less. So those are your kind of like spoilers. So how do you do that? So in terms of looking at the space that you have, a lot of the time what we need is more space to do the things that we want. And one way that we can find that we are struggling to do that is when there's just too much stuff in our space. So if you've got like too many bookcases, or possibly one too many bookcases in your room, with maybe one too many books, or a few too many books on those bookcases, then it could be that you don't have your space is filled with too much stuff, and the stuff is what's preventing you from doing what you want to be able to do. Now, if that stuff is necessary stuff, if it's essential for you, if without that stuff you are not going to be able to enjoy the quality of life that you wish to lead, then of course you need that stuff. You need to have space for it. But if that stuff is not serving you, is not giving you good quality of life, and is preventing you, is making your space inoperable, it doesn't function in the way that you want it to, then that stuff needs to go. So having a bit of a clear out is one way of the cheapest way of making more space and improving your home. And if you sell it, you actually can gain money from doing that. So it can be not necessarily not only a cheaper way, it can actually be a positive net, positive financial way of getting it. So that is the first step that I would suggest if you are thinking, our house is too cramped, it just doesn't work for us, we just can't do what we need to do in this space. Then very first thing, have a look at the stuff that's in it. And in terms of actually creating a lot of space quickly, look at the furniture. Is there a piece of furniture that you could get rid of that actually maybe it's full of stuff that you actually don't use, you never access it, you just don't need it? Can you get rid of the stuff that's in it and get rid of that piece of furniture and open up your space so you can use it in a different way and have more space to do what you want to do, whether that's practice belly dancing like I might do with my space, or whether that's yoga, or whatever it is that you do that means that you need to move around. Or if you're going to stick something else there and use that space, like work from home, or have a nice desk there, or whatever it is, or a little reading nook where you can sort of sit and have a little daydream and a think and a read of your favorite books. So whatever it is that you would really rather be doing with that space, clearing out a big piece of furniture preferably will help you to create more space. That is the lowest cost way of doing that. But a key thing is to have a clear vision, of what life you want to live, what you would be doing in that life on a daily basis, and how you'll be able to do that in your home. And that vision is what will make sure that it is the best solution for you. So it's going to deliver what is essential for you and deliver what you really need and want. The next thing then, once you've got rid of like those big bulky bits of furniture you don't like that just take up space, and had a bit of a clear out, and you're in a great situation, you've only got stuff in your home that you really love and really serves you, functions and all of that, what's next? And if you actually feel like you actually need more space, and the only way to do that is to build something more, then what we need to do is look at what are the smallest alterations that can be made that are going to have the biggest possible impact for you. So you could look at changing the use of rooms, swapping them around. So if you have got a bedroom in one room and a dining room in another, and a home office that's somewhere in the corner of your bedroom perhaps, but you never use the dining room, then maybe you could swap things around. Perhaps you could make your dining room a bedroom and make your bedroom and home office or something else. You can change the use of these rooms around. Maybe it's guest bedroom swapped with a library or a workout room or whatever it is, whatever space that you kind of need that will really add to your quality of life. Maybe it's a music practice room, somewhere that you can go, close the door, have a little play of your guitar in peace and not disturbing other people if they don't like your playing. So whatever it is that you need, swap the uses of rooms and assign uses to rooms in a way that's going to work for you, so that you have the space that you need that's doing what you need. If you've got a dining room and you never use a dining room, you never go and have a formal sit-down meal in there, get rid of it. Get rid of the dining table, get rid of the chairs, get rid of all the stuff that's in there that related to dining that you never use, and use that space for something else. You can completely free up an extra, 10 square meters or whatever size your dining room is. And that's a significant amount of space that you could use for something else that's really going to serve you. So that is a really quick and easy way to create more space that actually does what you want it to do. Another thing is to reconfigure the furniture, arrange the furniture differently, and maybe swap out some of the furniture so that the furniture you've got is more multifunctional, and perhaps incorporate storage within it. So perhaps you have a bed that actually has drawers or that opens up and you can store stuff inside, or you might have a table that's got a drawer in it that you can, if that's the table that you sit down and you do your crafts at, then perhaps you can have a table with a drawer, which is where you keep all your crafts supplies inside that drawer, and it's there in the place that you need it, and you've got it in a more what's the word, not confined space, that's not what I want to say, but a more not coordinated either, I can't think of the word, but it's all more there in one place. It's close to hand, it's where you want it, it's not spread out, it's convenient basically. So rearrange furniture, use furniture that adapts, so perhaps you don't want a dining room most of the time, but you do want a dining room for Christmas dinner or for the odd one-off occasion. So you could have a fold-up dining table that just sits in the side, and or a drop leaf table that you can bring out and set it up so you can make that room a dining room when you really need it to be. But the rest of the time, it functions in a completely different way, and it does what you need it to on a day-to-day or a week-by-week basis. And that one-off occasional use is a special situation where you can reset the room, rearrange the furniture, and use it, and you have the space for that when you need it, but not the rest of the time because you don't need it. You can go even more if you look at tiny house spaces. A lot of them have or caravans. If you think about a caravan, a lot of the time you'll have beds that flip down, so you're flipping down the bed at night time so you can go to bed and flipping it back up. You can have walls and storage units that open and close, and you can really create space that becomes more adaptable. But then for some of us, that would just be annoying, having to move something and rearrange and readapt on a daily basis might not be for you. You might love it, but it might not be for you. And so in that case, what extent are you happy with? What would you be comfortable doing? What would work for you? Has to work for you. It's your home. And then the third way that you can look at the cheapest, best solution is to look at kind of minimal structural alterations. So minimizing the structural alterations is going to cost you less in terms of creating that extra space. So ways you can do this are, if you are extending, but you want to connect through, obviously, to your existing house, you want to be able to get from inside your existing house into the new extension part. So you can reuse windows. So you can keep the structural opening of a window and remove everything from below the sill. So that becomes like a doorway. And that costs a lot less than creating a new structural opening, because you've got, well, more work involved in propping up and installing a beam, the cost of the structural support itself, the cost of getting someone to design that structure, calculate it for you. There are a lot more costs associated with creating more and bigger structural openings. So if you can minimize the amount of structural openings, that is going to reduce the cost of that work for you. What you could do instead is look at removing non-load bearing walls. So you could create bigger spaces by not by taking out load bearing walls where you're going to need structural support, but just looking at non-load bearing walls if you have any. So you can just take out the wall entirely, and you don't need to replace anything, any steel beam or anything in that location to support what's going on above it. Look at my notes. What else can you do? Nope, that's it. those are my 3 suggestions that I had for today. There are lots of other ways you can do it, but those are some really good ways. So minimize structural opening, rearrange the furniture layouts, and use furniture that is more multifunctional and more adaptable, opens and closes up and you can put it away, folding chairs, drop leaf tables, all that sort of thing. And then just changing the use of the rooms, like reconfiguring your space, but just in terms of redefining the way that you use each room, and possibly not using what was always a dining room as a dining room, or what was always the bedroom as a bedroom, reusing those spaces. So that is some ways that you can create the cheapest and best solution for you. So third question, but before we go on to the third question, this is something that I can help you with, is creating the best and cheapest solution. It's something that I do in the big picture plan. So if you would like more information about that, I'll pop a link in the chat and you can have a look at that and see what that's all about. So how to begin your big home improvements project when you're feeling overwhelmed. Now, I know it's like to feel overwhelmed, like there's too much stuff and where do you start, and all the possible options, and so many ideas, and well, it's just can be really confusing, and it can be just so much that you just feel like completely stuck and don't want to move forward. I don't even know where do I even start. That can be the tricky thing. So the thing to remember is just to take it one step at a time, one little thing at a time, and don't worry about the little detailed things when you're starting off a project. So I once had a client and we met up and they spent about half an hour telling me about how the rooms didn't work for them because of electrical sockets. And electrical sockets is not, you don't need to be worrying about the locations and quantities of electrical sockets. Or if that is the only thing that you're worrying about, then you don't need to be talking to an architect. You just need to get yourself an electrician and sort out your electrical sockets, put some more in, move them, do whatever you need to do to sort out those electrical sockets. But if that's just a small detail and you're focusing on that, then you need to just zoom out, take a big step back and think about, okay, electrical sockets and the locations of them, the quantities of them, that's something that can be dealt with at a later point further down the line. And you don't need to worry about that kind of level of detail at the beginning. It's not important. Or if you just can't get it out of your head, then write it all down, write all those worries and concerns that you have, write it all out, and then take a big deep breath and just put it to the side, and then step back and go, okay, well, what's the most important things here? Like, what's really going on? And you need to sort of think about, before you're worrying about how many sockets and where they go, you need to be thinking about how many rooms do we need, and where do those rooms go, and how are they located, you know, in terms of how does one connect to another. That is the bigger picture look at your home. So for example, let's think about kitchen and dining space. So you need to cook, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're like Zaha Hadid, famous architect. You may have heard of her, and she famously, apparently, did not have a kitchen in her house because she never cooked. She went and she ate out, or she had takeaway food. She never cooked at home. So she thought, well, what's the point of having a kitchen? So she got rid of it. She didn't have a kitchen, and instead, I think she had a walk-in wardrobe. She had a huge collection of designer clothes and shoes and handbags and things. And she just made a new wardrobe and kept them there instead of kitchen. She didn't bother with the kitchen. So, you know, if that's you, you've got a massive designer handbag collection and you don't cook at home, fine, get rid of the kitchen and have your storage. But if you're like probably the vast majority of us, and you do like to eat at home and cook at home as well, then you want to think about, where do you do those things and how close? So in terms of like, if you're storing, prepping, cooking food, and then you want to eat it, how are you going to get that food from the cooker onto the plates and to wherever it is that you want to sit and eat? That, or maybe you want to stand and eat, but however you want to eat, these things are how we look at in terms of the adjacencies. So I've been to lots of property where the kitchen, particularly older property, where there maybe originally have been designed with the idea that there would have been a housekeeper or a cook or somebody who would have been sort of working in the home, and you kind of have some staff and they will be doing the work. And then you'd have, like, you know, a sitting room and a dining room that would be like more formal perhaps, but also, you know, the above stairs people would be using that, and you wouldn't necessarily, as the family owning the home, you wouldn't be the people in the kitchen doing the cooking. So those sort of older Victorian and older properties often will have that sort of arrangement where you've got a kitchen at the back stuck out on its own with what would have originally been like the service entrance and stuff like that. And to get from the kitchen to where you would have your dining room, you have to go up some steps. It's like an awkward arrangement, like carrying stuff. It may not even feel that safe to get from the kitchen to the table. So these sorts of arrangements, they're quite traditional. And I mean, it just shows you what our sense of health and safety for people working was at one time. But you don't need to live like that if your home has been designed for a previous kind of arrangement, a previous system, a previous structure in your household, and you don't have staff cooking for you and carrying your food to the table for you. Then the arrangement of where your kitchen is and where you're preparing and cooking food and where you're sitting and eating food and how that connects and the adjacency of that, that's important. And it's similar with other parts of your home, you know, maybe your bathroom and your dressing room or walk-in wardrobe or your bedroom, or all these different spaces, however they are, whatever you've got and however you want them to be configured. Like that configuration, that way that one space adjoins to the next, that's important to think about. Much more important to get that right first, and then you can figure out how many sockets do we need in this kitchen, how many appliances are we going to be using at any one time, and where do we want them to be. That stuff you can leave. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just think about, what do we do at home? What do we do and where do we want to do it? And if I'm going to be doing this thing first, like cooking my dinner, what am I going to be doing next? So where do I need to go next from this space to do my next daily routine or habit? How do they need to connect? That's what you need to be thinking about. That's the first thing. And just start thinking about that. Start figuring that out first of all. And all the details, like whether you have white plastic or brushed stainless steel light switches or all that kind of detail stuff, if things pop into your head and that's stuff that's, you know, important to you, then write it down and keep it in a notebook that's, you know, just related to your project. But you don't need to worry about it at first. Just focus on the most important thing, which is, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Where do you want to do it? And once you've done that, what do you want to do next? That's it. Simple. Think about that first of all. And another thing you can do if you're feeling overwhelmed is tune out all the noise. Stop looking for more ideas and more inspiration and more advice from outside. Just like tune that bit out and just start to think, okay, what do I like? What do I want? Just ask yourself, what do you really, really love? Start from there instead of trying to get more stuff from outside influencing you. Because if you focus too much on things like the home design magazines, the home design shows and all that, you start to get influenced by their editorial team's idea of what's fashionable this season and, you know, what everybody should have. And it's very easy to start to get sucked in by, you know, the people who are selling advertising space in their media, and that is going to be influencing you and what you want, because that's what they're showing beautiful photographs of, and that's what they are telling you is all the rage and everybody should have it. You don't have to have the latest fashionable crystal steel windows and herringbone parquet floor and whatever it is this year. You know, one year it's a high gloss handle free kitchen, next year it's a blue shake style kitchen. Yeah, it doesn't. What do you really love? What do you love? Think about that first before you start to try and absorb and gather more and more and more ideas and inspiration, because all of that can add to that overwhelm of all this stuff. And how do you fit it in? And how do I have both gold, you know, bronze taps as well as, you know, the brushed stainless steel light fitting? Will it go together? Mixing metals. Oh, you can start to get into all these tangled up different kind of thought patterns that you just don't need to have. Just forget about what other people think is the thing that you should have, the latest should have, the biggest fashionable thing or the thing that everybody needs. You don't need it. Just think about, what do you love? What really makes you feel good at home? And what have you experienced? Think back to your memories of what you've experienced before and what you've really enjoyed. That's going to give you much better result at the end than having all this kind of stuff marketed at you and getting all of that information, because that just adds to confusion. And then finally, if you are finding yourself kind of having conversations with the other half, you know, this is something that I see a lot with my clients, is that they've gone through a whole process of discussing things with their partner, and they kind of like keep going round and round and round and round in circles, and they can't really figure out what they want. And maybe one person wants this thing and another person wants that thing. They're like, how do we both have these? Somebody's going to have to compromise, and we can't have them both. Just don't worry about that. Don't worry about how to get everything in. Just write down everything that everybody wants. Everyone in your home who has a significant decision-making role, who is going to actually be putting money in to pay for this work, those are the people who are going to have the most you know, you and your partner probably, but it could be your parents if they live with you. It could be adult children who live with you, whoever it is that you share your home with who has an input and you want to involve in the decision making. So I know it can be really difficult to have those conversations. And so you can make it really easy to have those conversations by just exploring the key fundamental things. What do you do at home? Who do you do it with? Where do you do it with? And what's next? What do you do next after that? And what is it that you really love? What experiences have you had that you really loved? Where have you been that you have felt was beautiful, that made you really feel at peace, you know, made you have all the feelings that you want to be able to have at home? Because home can mean anything to anybody, but what does it mean to you? How does it feel to you? And if you want to get my help with that, I've got a free Design Your Home Vision checklist that you can get. Again, I'll put in the chat. I'll put some links for you to get these things. That will help you to kickstart this conversation with those people who you need to have these conversations with, and starting to look at, you know, what are the things that you really need to decide at the beginning. What do you need to get clear on? Where do you need to start? And instead of getting sidetracked and going off and into the deep end of all this stuff that you just don't need to worry about yet, just focus on and tackle the bigger picture stuff. That big picture stuff is where you need to start. You can get more and more and more granular and detailed as you go through your project. A construction project of any scale has a lot of decision making to be made, from not only which tiles to choose, whether you have tiles at all, but if you do have tiles, then what pattern to lay them in, what grout to use, what colour grout to use. All of these little details you can start to decide, but you don't need to worry about them at the beginning. At the beginning, you just need to have the big picture things. What do you do? Who do you do it with? Where do you want to do it? And then what do you want to do next, and who with, and where, and so on. That's what you need to do. What rooms you have and how they connect to each other, where they are located in relation to each other. Forget about the fine detail. You will get to that at some point later on in your project. You'll get to that if you need to, but you don't need to worry about that to begin with. So and that's how you can start to make progress, one step at a time, big picture stuff first. And the Design Your Home Vision checklist is, I'm going to actually pop in the chat. This is the link to for the big picture plan, which is my one-to-one custom design starter package, where we get clear on that vision, that big picture vision, and I help you to create that with yourself and your partner. And then I create designs that deliver that vision, and then I help you also to double check it, make sure it's right. In architectural jargon, it's like a briefing, sketch design exploration, which is collaboratively done, and a feasibility package. So it's all the things that you need to do to get started on your project. And that's the link that I've just popped into the chat. And then for the free the Design Your Home Vision checklist, I'll pop that link in the chat as well. Design Your Home Vision checklist. You can get that for free. So let's go on to talk about storage. Do you have enough storage? So before I move on though, if you have any questions you would like me to pick up and answer, please do pop them in the chat, pop them in the comments. Let me know what your questions are. If you have any questions about home design, or project, how to run a project, planning permission, all these different things. I've got very broad experience as an architect of, you know, all different things related to home design. So if you've got any questions, or pop them in the chat and I will pick them up, and I will include them in future live podcasts. So storage. How do you house the stuff that you need in your home? So I've already mentioned earlier on that, you know, first step before you start any home improvements is to just have a bit of a clear out. So there is a famous designer, William Morris. He had a little phrase, only have in your home things that you know to be useful and believe to be beautiful. So if it's useful or if it's beautiful, keep it. And maybe not just if it's useful, but if you use it. If you use it and you believe it to be beautiful, then keep it. If you don't use it or you think it's hideous, then you know what to do. Have a clear out. But then the next thing to think about is, where do you use the stuff that you have? So if you have in your home, you've got your defined spaces in your home and you have very clear uses for them. We may have a very multifunctional space, but even if it's multifunctional, you may still have predefined uses that you use in that multifunctional space. For example, I have a living room. In my living room, we like to sit and read. We like to watch movies. We have a piano in there, so we practice piano. We like to have friends around and chat in there with, or family. We sit in there and have a cup of tea and have a chat. So there are quite a lot of different uses for that one room. And so the question is then, for all those uses, what stuff do you need to have close by to hand for that space? So where are you using this stuff? So think about, you know, when you're looking through things that you own and you're thinking, okay, well, where would I use this? If I was using it, where would I use it? Then go and put it in that space, and not just necessarily in that space, but say, for example, next to our sofa, we would have some blankets and things, because, well, I personally, like, I'm always feeling cold. I would want to wrap myself up in a blanket if I was watching a film. Or next to the piano, we've got a box with music in there. So having that right next to the piano, that's where we're going to use it. So which room and which part of the room are you going to be using the stuff? You want to have it located close to hand. You want it to be convenient. Now, if you've got some stuff that is like in that space and isn't stuff that you use regularly, for example, your Christmas decorations, like, you don't need them to be out all the time, obviously, unless you're a real big fan of Christmas. I know there are some people who have Christmas decorations all year round, and if that's you, that's absolutely fine. You do you. I'm not saying you have to do no Christmas the rest of the year. It's only at Christmas. That's entirely your choice. But the point is, if it's something that you only use once or twice a year, like, for example, we cut the hedges twice a year, I don't need the hedge cutters permanently sat in the middle of somewhere, like out. They can go away, they can be put away, and it doesn't have to be really easy to access, because I'm not using them every day. It's only once or twice a year. So if it's a little bit more of a pain, like if I have to climb up into the loft to be able to get them out, so maybe the camping gear, or the Christmas decorations, or whatever it is, the painting and decorating stuff, you know, that can go out of the way because you're not using it every single day. And that's how you can clear out some of the space. If you've got stuff in your in the rooms that you're using regularly that is not stuff that you use regularly, then you can put it away somewhere that you don't need to access it every day, and replace it with the stuff that you actually need to use for the use that you use that room, and have it to hand where it's really convenient. And then I would say that the most useful place to have it is literally where you use it. So say, for example, something that I'm looking for at the moment is a piano stool that doubles up as a music storage box. So we can open up the lid, say, for example, and in there we can have our piano music. And so you're literally sitting on the music. And if you want to change music, just stand up, open it up, take out the music that you want to play, pop it on the piano, sit down, and you can play. That's what I would say is a really good use of space, is to have furniture that stores the stuff that you want to use when you're using that piece of furniture. That's ideal, completely convenient, compact, and close by. Another thing to think about is storing things high up and storing things low down. So if you have like a basement, that's an obvious low down place, or a loft, that's an obvious high up place. Now, if you don't have a basement, that's fine. But if you have a roof space, but it's not decked out as a loft, so it's easy to create storage within a roof space. It's easy to add a loft access with a ladder, drop down ladder, and you want to make sure that your insulation is not is maintained, so that you can have insulated loft hatches if that's where your insulation is on the ceiling, and you can deck it out so you've got a structural platform where you can actually put your stuff up there out of the way. But having space high up where you can put stuff out of the way, stuff that you don't need to get to really conveniently, really easily every day, that's ideal. And low down, you could have if you don't have a basement, you could have a platform area. And you can have, say, for example, in stairs, if you've got a staircase, you can turn stairs into boxes and drawers, so that you're incorporating storage underneath. And underneath, you will have seen those pull-out storage units that you can get underneath stairs. You need to get them custom made by a carpenter, but you can have a whole load of shoehorned in storage space that really then creates a lot of extra additional space that can actually be really quick and easy to access when you need it. And then another thing you can do is to display the stuff that you need. So I know that William Morris says only have things that you believe to be beautiful and know to be useful. But if you can combine those things and have the useful stuff be also beautiful and have it both beautiful and useful, you can then display it, and you can experience that stuff as objects of art, almost things that you can enjoy and look at and enjoy as beautiful things displayed in your space, so that you can see them but also easily access at the same time. So those are a few different things you can think about in terms of how to make sure you have enough space for the stuff in your house. The key thing really is have only the stuff that you need where you want to use it, and anything that you just don't need to use in that place very regularly, take it out of that place and put it into more of a longer term storage solution in a place that is a bit less accessible. You want to be able to access it easily enough, but if you don't need it every day, you don't need it to be there to hand in the space that you're using. I hope that that's been really helpful and inspiring in some way and useful. If you have any comments at all, or you just want to say hi, then please do leave a comment below, and I would love to hear from you. And that is the end of today's show. I will be back again next week, and I haven't figured out what I'm going to be going through. I'm going to be gathering questions. So if you do have any questions that you would like me to answer, perhaps in next week's show, perhaps in a future show, then please do ask your questions in the comments, and I will pick them up and look at them then. Thanks, finishers, and I will see you again next Monday lunchtime for Join Architect Jane. Bye now.